Hey there and welcome to Faction Focus King Wolf. King Wolf is the lone wolf of the factions.
King Wolf then is a flat damage aggressor kind of a faction where they are the lone wolf primarily because they don't really interact with their support units at all. All buildings, all of their weapons are predicated towards dealing additional damage or having an effect on the target or facilitating you hitting that target more easily. You'll notice here that all of these cards have speeds that end with either 74 or 24, and this is a pattern repeated throughout the factions. They all have two numbers, one in the below 50 and one above 50, which is their number, which is combined with the hundreds in order to generate their speed markers. And this leaves this faction as a mid-range at best speed faction.
Primary weapon focus.
These are the primary weapons of King Wolf, including the Dire Laser, the most powerful flat damage weapon in the game. The point blank, when adjacent to your opponent, this deals an additional damage for a mighty 8 damage. It's worth noting that only energy and ballistic weapons are used by King Wolf, so when choosing your defences, do consider these as good options when fighting against them.
Secondary weapon focus.
Here are the secondary weapons for King Wolf then. Amongst them we have the Disruption Laser, which is one of the best all-round secondary weapons in the game, with a range of 1 to 4, damage 2, and only costing 1 energy to use. It's pretty efficient all-round. In addition to this, we have the only 2 missile weapons available to King Wolf, one of which is particularly accurate but only does 2 damage, but the other does a whopping 3 damage for 1 energy, and even gives you bonus in that it allows you to move to an adjacent square. So this is ideal for peeking, so if you move out of cover and then use that move to move back into cover. However, it's at speed 24, so this move might best perhaps be used for tagging rather than hiding. Additionally, we have one of the best point defense weapons. Each faction has a weapon which can shoot multiple targets, and this one is range 1 to 2, damage 2, and although you have to roll to hit each of your targets, most of the others have slightly more specific rules which makes them harder to utilise. This one is simple: get in range, aim, fire. And then finally we have the propellant boost, which although on face value is quite good, you have to shell out additional energy in order to increase its range up to 4. So a 3 energy weapon to get it to range 4 for just 3 damage. It's very expensive on the energy front, but can synergize well with the low energy cost weapons that you have elsewhere in your secondaries, and also if you take a low energy cost primary weapon. Here we come to synergy number 1, and this is the depleted unobtainium lone wolf missile and disruption laser combo. These synergize well because the depleted unobtainium and the lone wolf missile give you long range, the lone wolf missile pushing you out to a range of 6. Also, they have a range brackets which all intermesh with each other, so you have an optimum range of 3 to 4 where all weapons can fire, but you're not completely stymied if someone's brawling with you at point blank range, and also at extreme range you can still put out some damage. So this is an all round hovering at medium range ideally, but still able to put out damage at short ranges and long ranges kind of a build. On to synergy number 2, and we find the Vortex Cannon, which has the ability to knock people back, so especially if you combine it with a sponsor card, Damage Spike, which gives you +1 damage. You improve your chances to do the 3+ damage in order to move somebody a space away. So if somebody has close distance with you and you have Wolfpack missiles and they're at range 1, so only your Vortex Cannon can shoot, especially combined with the sponsor card, you might well be able to push them into range 2, or from range 2 into range 3 if you want them to be able to be shot by everything. So in terms of a synergy, these cards synergize very well, although getting 3+ damage with a 4 damage card is not quite so easy as you might imagine, because somehow half the time people roll enough 5s and 6s, even though it shouldn't happen that way, to prevent them from taking 3 damage. The weakness of this build is they're very slow firing weapons, so you're probably going to shoot after everybody else. There's a final sample build here, and not really looking at synergies, but just looking at flat damage. We take the dire laser, the disruption laser, and the point defense chain gun. So we've got the high energy and the 2 low energy, and you want to take the maneuver and preferably Ike for this build. So you take the maneuver card as one of your cards, and Ike, because Ike gives you +1 movement, so you can move 1 hex each turn without having to expend any energy. And if you've got the maneuver as well, you can again cover 1 hex for free. So you're trying to save energy, because what you want is you want to hammer out 5 energy for damage dealing. This does synergize well with the sponsor card, which gives you 2 energy at the beginning of the combat phase. So people might think you're not going to go all in, and then you get to go all in. That can be very cool. This is a hug your opponent, flat damage, just try and destroy things kind of a build. With the aid of the point defense chain gun, you might be able to pick up especially the repair unit who's hovering around your opponent's heavy hitter for some extra damage, and also clearing the field of those pesky support units. Finally, in terms of weapon systems, we have the orbital strike, and this is the slowest orbital strike in the game at speed 74. There are only 3 other weapons which are slower than this, so this is going to be happening right at the end of the combat phase, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, because it might be that it gives you the best chance to weigh up the odds in terms of who to damage, especially if it looks like it's heading towards a damage related victory in a multiplayer game. You might be able to knock off that little bit of damage you need in order to take the victory, because somebody's already been destroyed this round and you're just looking at everybody's damage piles and going like, who do I need to hurt the most? Then we have combat and repair and recon support units. And it's worth noting that your combat unit is possibly one of the worst in the game, not because of stats, because the stats are all identical on these units, but because of the speed. At speed 124, there are 2 other factions who have orbital strikes which come before you can use the Sentinel. So if you're up against Diamondback or you're up against Thunder Happy, your Sentinel is a threat from orbital strike before it gets to do anything in any combat phase, which is potential death and doom and destruction for the Sentinel. On the flip side, the Grease Monkey is the fastest repair unit in the game. Only 7 heavy hitters weapons are faster than your repair unit, and 2 of them are yours. Now, you're going to have to watch out for pesky recon units, but your recon is the 2nd fastest recon in the game, so you do have a chance to maybe shoot down the nearest recon units who are ogling your repair unit and save the Grease Monkey before it slips away to its doom. In terms of other cards from your faction deck, well, it's kind of up to you, but it might be worth considering missile defense as a solid option, because every other faction has missiles as a primary weapon. That to one side, these can all be a bit hit and miss, and obviously each faction has a lot of variations within it. If you are up against Hammer Strike though, they have a lot of missile weapons. It's worth considering. Also, Diamondback, energy heavy. And then you also have Thunder Happy. They're kind of ballistic heavy. But again, each faction can build decks which fall outside of what their predominant weapon type is. Also, never forget jump jets. They are amazing. Just the ability to move is often more useful than your defensive things, which only function when against the right weapon or under the right circumstance. Also, of course, making your support units cheaper, always worth the while.
So there we have it, King Wolf in a nutshell at least. Try experimenting for yourselves, and also pilots and other faction cards which are universal to all factions will be dealt with at some point in the future. I hope it's been some interest to you and that all of your faction building is going really well. Thank you for watching, have a good one and take care. Bye bye.